Most men will watch this video and feel uncomfortable within the first minute. Not because it's offensive, but because it exposes something they've never been taught to see. If you are an older man, there is a very real chance that a woman has flirted with you recently and you had no idea it was happening. Not because you're unaware or inexperienced, but because the signals were never meant to be obvious. And that misunderstanding has quietly cost men years of connection, confidence, and opportunity. Here's the truth no one says directly. Women rarely flirt in ways that protect a man's ego. They flirt in ways that test his awareness. And most men fail that test without realizing they were even being tested. They assume attraction is loud, direct, undeniable. But real attraction often arrives quietly, wrapped in moments that look ordinary if you don't know what to look for. What makes this uncomfortable is not that you missed a signal. It's realizing how often this may have happened. How many conversations ended early? How many moments felt neutral that were actually invitations? How many times you told yourself she was just being friendly when, in reality, she was creating space for something more? This isn't about learning tricks or lines. It's about understanding how attraction actually works at a psychological level. Because once you see it, you can't unsee it. You'll recognize why women pull back when men hesitate, why trying to impress often backfires, why emotional presence matters more than confidence, age, or status. If you stay until the end of this video, you won't just understand women better. You'll understand yourself better. You'll see where hesitation disguised itself as respect, where silence replaced leadership, and where opportunity quietly waited for you to step forward. And once you see that clearly, the way you move through connection will never be the same again. Most men misunderstand flirting because they're looking for noise instead of nuance. They expect attraction to announce itself loudly, confidently, almost theatrically. They believe that if a woman is interested, she will make it obvious, unmistakable, impossible to miss. And when that doesn't happen, they conclude nothing is there. But that assumption is not only wrong, it's the very reason so many men miss opportunities that were quietly unfolding right in front of them. Women do not flirt the way men are taught to recognize desire. Men are socialized to pursue directly, to signal interest clearly, to risk rejection openly. Women, on the other hand, are socialized to assess safety, emotional intelligence, and self-control before desire ever becomes explicit. So their flirting is not a declaration, it is an invitation. And invitations are subtle by design. A woman who is interested doesn't rush toward you. She slows down around you. She creates space where there doesn't need to be any. She lingers in conversation when she has other places to be. She asks questions that aren't practical, questions that don't serve efficiency or necessity, but connection. That slowing down is not accidental. Attention is a woman's most valuable currency, and she does not give it away casually. Older men often miss this because they confuse politeness with interest. They tell themselves she's just being kind, just being friendly, just doing her job. And sometimes that's true, but the difference lies in consistency and intention. Politeness is brief, interest sustains. When a woman continues to engage without obligation, when she returns to you emotionally again and again, that is not courtesy. That is choice. Another layer men overlook is emotional mirroring. When a woman begins to match your tone, your pace of speech, your emotional rhythm, she is unconsciously aligning with you. This is not something people do when they feel neutral. It's something they do when they feel connected. She laughs a little longer at what you say, not because you're suddenly funnier than everyone else, but because she's attuned to you. She remembers small details you shared, things you assumed were insignificant, because emotional attention sharpens memory. But here's where many men sabotage themselves. They think these moments require performance. They believe they must now impress, escalate, or dominate the interaction, so they talk more, explain more, try harder, and in doing so, They disrupt the very dynamic that created attraction in the first place. Because flirting is not about being impressive. It's about being present. Presence is calm. Presence listens. Presence does not rush to fill silence. Silence, when mutual, is one of the strongest signs of comfort and interest. If a woman is comfortable sitting in quiet with you, not checking her phone, not disengaging, not fidgeting to escape, that is not neutrality. That is trust forming. Women also flirt through light resistance. They challenge you gently. They tease your opinions. They disagree playfully. This is not an attack on your masculinity, nor is it disrespect. It is a test of emotional regulation. She is observing how you respond when your perspective is not immediately validated. Do you become defensive? Do you over-explain? Do you need to win the point? Or can you stay grounded, relaxed, even amused? A man who remains centered during playful opposition communicates strength without aggression. A man who needs to correct, convince, or control communicates insecurity, even if his words are polished. Attraction is not built on dominance. It is built on emotional safety paired with quiet confidence. The deeper issue is that many men are not missing signals because they're unintelligent. They're missing them because they're afraid. Fear disguises itself as logic. It says, "I'm just being respectful," when what it really means is, "I don't want to risk being wrong." It says, "I don't want to misinterpret," when what it really means is, "I don't want to feel exposed." But attraction does not reward avoidance. Women are not looking for men who never make mistakes. They are looking for men who can take calibrated action without collapsing emotionally if the outcome isn't guaranteed. A subtle flirt is not a contract, it is a doorway, and doorways require someone to step forward. When a woman holds eye contact a moment longer than necessary, when she angles her body toward you, when she creates shared moments of attention that exclude the rest of the room, she is not asking you to be perfect. She is asking you to be present enough to notice and confident enough to respond. Indecision is often more damaging than misreading. A grounded response, even if slightly imperfect, signals leadership. Silence signals uncertainty, and uncertainty feels unsafe, especially to someone who has just made herself emotionally visible. The truth is, women rarely regret subtle flirting. What they regret is feeling unseen. When interest is extended and not acknowledged, it quietly withdraws. Not dramatically, not angrily, it simply fades. And the man is left believing nothing was ever there, because it's easier to believe that than to accept he didn't know how to respond. Flirting, at its core, is not about seduction. It is about recognition. It is about two people noticing each other beneath the surface of roles, ages, expectations, and assumptions. Older men who succeed in this dynamic are not the loudest or the flashiest. They are the most attentive. They understand that desire often whispers before it speaks. When you learn to see these signs clearly, your entire perception shifts. You stop waiting for certainty and start responding to presence. You stop looking for permission written in bold letters and start recognizing invitations written in tone, timing, and attention. And once you understand that attraction is not something you chase, but something you notice and meet, you realize how many moments in your life were not missed opportunities, but unrecognized ones. The question is no longer whether women are signaling interest. The question is whether you are awake enough to see it and steady enough to respond. Most men are taught, directly or indirectly, that attraction is something you earn through performance. You say the right things. You show your value. You impress. You prove. And for a while, this belief seems logical, especially for older men who have spent years being rewarded professionally for effort, competence, and results. But emotional attraction does not follow the same rules as career success. In fact, the very behaviors that help you win respect in the world often weaken attraction in intimate dynamics. Women are not drawn to how hard you try. They are drawn to how calm you remain. This is where most men misunderstand what emotional presence actually means. Presence is not silence. And it's not passivity. It's the ability to stay grounded in yourself without needing to manage the other person's perception of you. When a woman is interacting with you, she is not unconsciously asking, "Is this man impressive?" She is asking, "Is this man internally stable?" Because stability is what makes closeness feel safe. When a man starts performing, explaining, or over-delivering, what he unknowingly communicates is internal tension. He is trying to steer the interaction instead of allowing it to unfold. And women are remarkably sensitive to this. They can feel when a man is relaxed in himself versus when he is trying to earn something. Effort carries a kind of emotional noise. Presence carries quiet authority. Think about moments when a woman leans in emotionally. She opens up slightly. She shares a personal thought. She makes a comment that invites depth rather than surface-level response. Many men panic in these moments, not outwardly, but internally. They feel the weight of expectation, so they respond by filling space. They joke, they give advice, they intellectualize, or they try to be impressive with insight. But what she was actually inviting was not a solution or a performance. She was inviting attunement. Attunement means being with her experience without needing to control it. It means listening without rehearsing your next line. It means responding slowly enough that your words are grounded, not reactive. This is what emotional presence looks like in real time. And it is rare. Women often test for this presence without even realizing they are doing it. They introduce small emotional shifts, a moment of vulnerability, a playful challenge, a change in tone. They are observing how you regulate yourself in response. Do you stay steady, or do you rush to restore comfort by entertaining, fixing, or dominating the conversation? A man who can stay relaxed during these moments signals something very powerful. He is not overwhelmed by emotional intimacy. He does not need to escape it or control it. And that quality creates attraction at a level far deeper than charm or confidence alone. This is why playful contradiction is such a common flirting tool. When a woman lightly challenges you, she is not questioning your intelligence. She is observing your nervous system. She wants to see whether you can hold your sense of self without becoming defensive or rigid. A man who immediately corrects her, explains himself, or tries to win the point reveals that his identity is fragile. A man who smiles, stays curious, or even enjoys the tension reveals emotional resilience. Presence also shows up in how you handle silence. Silence makes many men uncomfortable because it removes the illusion of control. They feel responsible for keeping things interesting. But mutual silence, when it feels natural, is a sign of deep comfort. If a woman remains engaged during quiet moments, she is not bored, she is settled. And a man who can remain present without rushing to fill the space communicates a grounded confidence that words cannot replicate. Another mistake men make is confusing emotional presence with emotional intensity. They think being present means being deeply expressive, emotionally revealing, or intense. But presence is actually about containment. It is about having access to emotion without being ruled by it. A woman does not feel safer with a man who floods her with feeling. She feels safer with a man who can feel without losing himself. This is especially important for older men interacting with younger women. Age alone does not create attraction. Emotional leadership does, and emotional leadership is demonstrated through steadiness, not superiority. When a man is calm, attentive, and self-anchored, he creates an environment where a woman can relax into her own femininity without feeling pressured or managed. Trying to impress often comes from a subtle belief that you are not already enough. Presence comes from the belief that you are complete before the interaction even begins. That difference is felt immediately. One energy seeks validation. The other offers stability. Women are not looking for men who need them to feel worthy. They are looking for men who can include them without losing themselves. This is why emotional presence is more seductive than any rehearsed line or strategic move. It signals abundance at an internal level. And here's the paradox many men struggle with. The less you try to create attraction, the more space attraction has to grow. When you stop performing, you become readable. When you become readable, trust forms. And trust is the foundation of desire that lasts. This doesn't mean you withdraw or become indifferent. It means your attention is deliberate rather than desperate. You engage fully, but you don't grip the outcome. You allow connection without demanding a result. That balance is rare, and rarity creates value. Many men believe they lose attraction by not doing enough. In reality, they lose it by doing too much in the wrong direction. They try to impress when they should be attuning. They speak when they should be sensing. They push when they should be holding space. Emotional presence is not passive. It is active awareness. It is choosing to be grounded rather than performative. It is trusting that who you are, when fully present, is more compelling than anything you could try to manufacture. When you understand this, your interactions change. Conversations slow down. Tension becomes playful rather than anxious. Silence becomes connective rather than awkward, and women begin to feel something they may not be able to articulate, but they recognize instantly. They feel safe. They feel seen. They feel drawn. And that is the kind of attraction, but does not need to be chased, because it emerges naturally in the presence of a man who is fully there. The question is no longer how to impress, but whether you are willing to stop performing long enough to be truly present. One of the most damaging myths men carry into their interactions with women is the belief that doing nothing is safer than doing something wrong. It sounds mature on the surface. It sounds respectful. It sounds controlled. But psychologically, it is avoidance dressed up as virtue, and attraction does not grow in avoidance. It withers there. Women do not expect men to be perfect. They expect them to be decisive enough to respond to reality as it unfolds. When a woman offers subtle interest and a man does nothing, what she feels is not relief. What she feels is uncertainty. And uncertainty does not feel safe. Many older men tell themselves they are being cautious, that they don't want to misread signals, that they don't want to embarrass themselves or make a woman uncomfortable. But this logic misses a crucial point. Attraction is not a courtroom where certainty must be proven beyond doubt before action is taken. It is a living interaction, guided by responsiveness, awareness, and emotional courage. A woman does not extend interest as a guarantee. She extends it as a test, not a test of bravado or cleverness, but a test of leadership. She wants to know whether the man in front of her can tolerate ambiguity without freezing, whether he can take responsibility for momentum instead of waiting for instructions. Indecision communicates more than men realize. It communicates hesitation, self-doubt, and a lack of trust in one's own perception. And while women may not consciously articulate this, they feel it immediately. The nervous system reads it. The body registers it. Something feels off, and attraction quietly begins to withdraw. What men often fear most is being wrong. They fear assuming interest where there is none. But here is the truth few people say clearly. Women are far more forgiving of calibrated initiative than of emotional passivity. A respectful, grounded move that acknowledges uncertainty is rarely offensive. Silence, on the other hand, feels like emotional absence. When a woman creates space for connection and a man does not step into it, she is left holding the emotional weight alone. She has already risked something by signaling interest, however subtly. When that risk is not met, the imbalance feels uncomfortable. Over time, she learns to pull back, not because she wasn't interested, but because the dynamic lacks direction. Men often confuse leadership with control. They think leading means pushing forward aggressively or asserting dominance. In reality, leadership in attraction is about taking responsibility for motion. It's about being willing to move the interaction somewhere, even if that movement is gentle and exploratory. A simple acknowledgement can change everything. Curiosity, a reflective comment, a moment of directness without pressure. These are not grand gestures. They are signals that say, I see what's happening. and I'm not afraid to engage with it. That alone can deepen attraction far more than flawless execution ever could. The men who struggle most with indecision are often highly intelligent and self-aware. They analyze every variable. They wait for clarity. But attraction does not reward analysis. It rewards responsiveness. By the time certainty arrives, the moment has already passed. This is why so many men look back and realize they missed opportunities only in hindsight. In the moment, they felt neutral. Later, patterns become obvious. Her attention, her warmth, her availability. What felt ambiguous then feels clear now. But attraction does not live in hindsight. It lives in timing. Women are constantly assessing how a man handles moments of openness. Does he lean in emotionally, or does he retreat into neutrality? Does he respond to energy, or does he wait to be instructed? Over time, these micro-responses form a clear picture of whether he is capable of leading a relational dynamic. And here's the paradox that challenges many men. You do not lose attraction by being slightly off. You lose it by being inert. A man who acts with grounded confidence, even imperfectly, communicates life force. A man who waits communicates stagnation. This doesn't mean forcing outcomes or ignoring boundaries. It means trusting your perception enough to engage honestly. It means saying, in action if not in words, I'm present, I'm aware, and I'm willing to move with what's here. That willingness is what women respond to. Many men hide behind the idea of respect while actually avoiding vulnerability. True respect is not absence. True respect is attunement. It is noticing the other person's signals and responding with care and clarity. Avoidance is not respectful. It is self-protective. When a woman senses that a man cannot decide, she often decides for him. Not consciously, but emotionally. She categorizes him as safe but unexciting, kind but distant, present but unavailable. And once that categorization happens, attraction rarely recovers. This is especially relevant for older men, who often believe their age requires extra restraint. Maturity is not measured by how little you act. It is measured by how well you act under uncertainty. Emotional adulthood means being able to hold risk without collapsing or becoming reckless. The men who are most attractive over time are not those who avoid mistakes, but those who are willing to engage and adjust. They move forward, they observe the response, and they calibrate. That flexibility signals confidence far more than rigidity ever could. Attraction is dynamic. It responds to momentum. When momentum stalls, interest fades. Not because the connection wasn't real, but because it was never given a chance to breathe. So the real question men must ask themselves is not, what if I'm wrong? The more useful question is, what if my silence is the problem? Because often it is. When you learn to respond instead of retreat, to engage instead of analyze endlessly, you step into a different relationship with yourself. You become someone who trusts his own awareness. And that trust is felt immediately by the people around you. Indecision may feel safe, but it costs more than you think. Because attraction does not wait for certainty. It responds to presence in motion. And the moment you understand that moving with integrity is better than standing still in fear, you stop missing opportunities not because you're flawless, but because you're finally willing to show up. One of the most misunderstood aspects of attraction is the order in which it unfolds. Many men believe physical interest comes first and emotional connection follows later, if at all. But for most women, the sequence is reversed. Emotional availability is the gateway. Physical desire is the response. And when men fail to understand this order, they unintentionally shut doors they never even realized were opening. A woman does not make herself emotionally available by accident. When she begins to share personal thoughts, values, fears, or experiences, she is not simply talking. She is testing the emotional environment. She is asking a quiet but profound question: is this space safe enough for me to be real here? Older men often miss this because they misinterpret vulnerability as casual conversation. They respond with advice, humor, or emotional distance, believing they are being helpful, light, or composed. But what the woman is actually looking for is not solutions or deflection. She is looking for presence. She wants to know whether her emotional openness will be met with steadiness or avoidance. When a woman opens up and a man immediately shifts into problem-solving mode, he unknowingly communicates discomfort with emotional depth. When he jokes to redirect the moment, he signals that intimacy makes him uneasy. When he listens but offers nothing back emotionally, he creates an imbalance that feels isolating rather than safe. Emotional availability does not mean oversharing or emotional dumping. It means being willing to stay present with another person's internal world without needing to control it, fix it, or escape it. It means listening with the intention to understand, not to respond. This capacity is rare, and rarity creates attraction. Women are deeply attuned to how men handle emotional moments, not dramatic ones, but subtle ones. A pause in conversation, a shift in tone, a personal admission. These moments are invitations, not demands. And how a man responds determines whether the connection deepens or quietly dissolves. Many men fear that engaging emotionally will make them appear weak, needy, or less masculine. This fear is rooted in a misunderstanding of strength. Emotional strength is not the absence of feeling. It is the ability to hold feeling without being overwhelmed by it. A man who can stay grounded while emotions are present communicates security at a level words cannot convey. This is why emotional availability often precedes physical intimacy. Before a woman desires closeness with a man's body, she needs to feel safe with his emotional presence. Safety does not mean predictability or boredom. It means consistency. It means knowing that her vulnerability will not be used against her, dismissed, or ignored. Older men who struggle in this area often pride themselves on independence and self-sufficiency. These qualities are valuable, but when taken to extremes, they become emotional unavailability. Independence becomes distance. Control becomes rigidity, and women feel that immediately. When a woman senses that a man cannot meet her emotionally, she does not confront him, she withdraws. She becomes lighter, more surface level, less engaged, and the man assumes she lost interest for reasons he cannot explain. In reality, the emotional door was opened, and no one walked through it. Another subtle way men miss this signal is by intellectualizing emotional moments. They turn feelings into concepts, experiences into theories. While insight has its place, attraction lives in experience, not analysis. When a woman shares something personal, she is not looking for interpretation. She is looking for connection. Emotional availability also shows up in how a man shares himself, not through monologues or confessions, but through calibrated openness. When a man can acknowledge his own experiences, uncertainties, or values without dramatizing them, he becomes relatable, he becomes human, and humanity is attractive. This does not mean revealing everything too soon. It means being honest in the moment. It means responding authentically rather than strategically. Strategy kills intimacy. Presence builds it. Many men think emotional availability means losing control. In truth, it requires more control, not less. It requires the discipline to stay open without chasing reassurance. It requires the confidence to let connection unfold without forcing outcomes. When a woman feels emotionally met, her body responds naturally, attraction deepens, desire grows, not because the man tried to seduce her, but because he created an environment where closeness felt safe and welcome. This is why men who focus only on physical escalation often feel confused when things stall. They are trying to access a later stage of connection without honoring the earlier one. Emotional availability is not a detour. It is the path. Older men who understand this become quietly magnetic. They do not rush intimacy. They do not pressure. They do not withdraw. They stay present, responsive, and grounded. And women feel that as maturity, not age. The tragedy is that many men are capable of this but never practice it. They have learned to guard themselves so well that they mistake emotional distance for strength. But distance does not create attraction. It creates neutrality. Emotional availability is a risk. It requires you to be seen, But it is a calibrated risk, not reckless exposure. It is the willingness to meet someone where they are, without guarantees. When you learn to recognize emotional openness as the first signal of attraction, your responses change. You stop deflecting. You stop performing. You stop hiding behind composure. And in that shift, something powerful happens. Women feel understood without being analyzed. They feel safe without being controlled. They feel drawn without being chased. And that is the foundation of attraction that lasts beyond novelty. Because physical desire may open the door, but emotional availability is what invites someone to stay. The question is not whether women are opening up to you. The question is whether you are emotionally present enough to meet them when they do.